I pulled current job posting for ServiceNow architecture roles. Accenture, UI, DXC. Here's what I found. Only about 20% require the CTA certification. Around 30% list it as nice to have. Half of them never mentioned it at all. So if the certification isn't the gate, what is? That's this video, the evidence-based skill map that separates developers from architects. What the market actually demands, the 5 behavior shifts with real examples. The 5 fake architect and anti-partners, and how working architects really spend their week. By the end, you will know exactly what to practice. Let's go. Quick context about me so you know this isn't theory. 7+ years on ServiceNow. I started as a developer building catalog items, business rules, and integrations. Today I work as an architect and advisor for international clients. And ServiceNow named me a Rising Stars in 24 and 25. And no, I don't hold the CT certification. I'm saying that out loud on purpose because the data I just showed you says it's not what stands between you and the role. What is stand between you and the role is measurable. Let me show you. What the CTA actually is. First, to respect where it's due. The CTA is a serious program, $7,000, 14 weeks, cohort based. You need 3 years as a ServiceNow SME, your CSA and 2 CIS certification just to apply. It ends with a capstone presentation and a 47 questions scenario exam. Bill Martin, who passed it as a score leader, says the program asks you to step back and think in a very different way to design, scale, integrate, and govern the platform across the entire enterprise. Notice what he's describing a way of thinking, not a body of knowledge. And that's exactly why half the architect posting don't mention it. Companies aren't buying the logo. They're buying someone who already thinks that way. The certification can teach the thinking, but it doesn't have a monopoly on it. Here's the proof. Look at what the exam itself weights. Look at the CTA exam blueprint. CMDB and CSDM, 50%. Platform data integrations, 15. Security architecture, 15. Testing practice, 15. Then data strategies, road mapping, instance strategy, governance, go live readiness. Notice what's missing? There's no domain called writing great code, 0%. More than half the exam is data integration, security, and testing. In other words, architecture on this platform is mostly about data and risk, not about scripts. That's the first mindset crack I want to open. If you are writing let code style script skills to become an architect, you're training for the wrong exam, certified or not. So, what show do you training? I extracted the skills rankings straight from the job posting. So, what the market ranks first? Ranking the requirements across those postings, this is the top 5. Number 1, and this surprised everyone, platform governance. Establishing review process, architecture review boards, technical data management. Number 2, CMDB and CSDM design. Not configuring CI classes, design the service data model. 3, integration architecture. The landscape, not the script. 4, multi-instance and release strategy. And 5, stakeholder communication, translating technical trade offs for executives. Here's the uncomfortable part. A typical senior developer trains exactly zero of these five on a normal sprint. You can close stories brilliantly for 5 years and never touch a single one. That's why just get more experience is bad advice. It's not more experience, it's different experience. And the difference comes down to observable behaviors. Let me show you the same situations handled by a developer and by an architect side by side. Okay, let's go. Same situations, two behaviors, right? Behavior per one, licensing. Developer assigns users the roles they need to do their jobs, right? But an architect designs the solution around the requester roles and self-service specifically to minimize fulfiller licensing consumption. Because on this platform, licensing decisions are architecture decisions. A bad one distorts your design and your client's invoice for years. Nobody teaches developers this, and it's the one of fastest ways to spot architect level thinking. Part 2, upgrades. A developer tests their own code thoroughly before promoting. An architect runs upgrade impact analysis across all customizations, mapping every modified out-of-the-box element against the release notes with a regression strategy. One protects their story, the other protects the platform. Part 3, integrations. A developer writes a solid REST integrations with Workday, error handling, logging, down. An architect designs the integration landscape. Which system is the source of truth? What are the retry and failures semantics? What are the payload limits? What happens when workday is down for 6 hours? See the partner? Same situations. The developer optimized the task. The architect optimized the system over time. One mention that I found during this research said it perfectly. I don't think in models anymore. I think in domains and business capabilities. Now the part that filters out the tourist. Reconstructed from ServiceNow's own Day in the Life series and architect roles group leads. Here's how working architects actually spend the week. 30% review on designs and ensuring questions like this. Should this be a flow designer or business role? 25% in stakeholder alignment. Review boards, roadmap sessions, translating trade offs for executives. 15% on governance, 10 on mentoring, 5 on release notes and learning. Hands on building, 15%. 15. 85% of the architect's week is not building. If that number makes you sad, that's is important data about whether you actually want this job. If it makes you curious, good, because the skill that makes those 85% valuable has a name. I found an interesting mention from Gregor about the architect elevator during the research. He says, riding between the engineering room where the code lives and penthouse where strategy lives, translating both ways without losing fidelity. And he adds the line that reframed my view. Being an architect isn't the sum of skills, it's the product. So, your technical depth multiplied by your ability to translate it. If either factor is near zero, the product is near zero. So, how do you prove architect level thinking without the title? Artifacts. Developers are judged by code. Architects are judged by the documents that guide others people's choices. Five came up in every framework I looked at. One, Architecture decisions records. One page, the context, the options, the trade offs, the choice, and what it leads to. The real power is ending that debates. Okay? Two, a CSDM blueprint, the map from the business need to service to each item in your setup. This is a document that decides if your SameDB can route incidents and model costs or just turns into a junk drawer. 3. Plan for roles. When is flow designer a most over scripting? What naming rules apply? What has to be true before your touch an out of the box record? Agreed once in writing, not argued again in every sprint. 4. An integration map. Every links its directions, how often it runs, and the source of truth, all on one page. And 5. An instance strategy doc. How the environments are built, update set versus ape repo, and the test gates that have to pass. Here's the move. You don't need anyone blessing to make this. Write the ADR, for example, the first step, one architecture decision records for your own next big choice. Draw the integration map of the project you're on right now. You will be doing the architect's work before anyone hands you the title. And these documents become your proof. Now the dark side, because the title alone proves nothing. 5 fake architect partners, all real, all named in their research, right? First one, the E-Very Tower. Architect design systems that are never on call for. Beautiful diagrams that engineers quietly work around because they fall apart the moment they meet the real world. The diagram decorator. Outshine, no depth. It's PowerPoint architecture. Fancy slides that don't match what's really going on. The certification collector holds all charts and copies best practices with no context. Big on opinions, but stays away from the actual work. This is why I keep saying CTA is not the point. It's a tool, not who you are, right? The scope abuser thinks that putting code in a scope the app fix governance on its own. It doesn't. Scope keeps things apart. It doesn't say who owns them. You end up with messy cross-scoped links and the same chaos, just boxed it up. And my favorite, the out of the box Zealot, because it breaks a rule most of you treat as a sacred. Always stay out of the box, sound wise, until you see the truth. Some of the worst tech that out there was fully out of the box, but use it wrong, misread, or push it way past what it was built for. Out of the box forced onto a job it was never made for. This is still that. The architect job isn't out of the box versus custom. It's owning the trade off either way. So let's bring it all back. The CTA is not the gate. Half the architect roles don't even ask for it. What the market really wants is a different way of thinking. One you can start building today with no one's permission. Remember the core of it. Architecture on this platform is about data and risk, not about scripts. The developer makes the task work. The architect makes the whole system hold up over time. And you prove that not with code, but with documents, proofs that guide other people's choices. Your ADRs, your CSDN map, your integration landscape. 85% of the job is it building, is thinking, designing, and translating. So that's the real takeaway. It's not the sum of your skills, it's the product. Your technical depth times your ability to explain it. If either one is near zero, the whole thing's near zero. So here's my ask. Pick one move this week. Write on one ADR. Draw one integration map. Find the license impact of one design choice. Just one. That's how the thinking starts. If this gave you a clearly picture of the path, hit like. It really helps the channel reach more people on the same road. And subscribe if you want ServiceNow content with business links because technical skills get you in the room. But the way you think gets you the seat at the table. Which one five fake architects are you closest to right now? Tell me in the comments. Be honest. See you in the next one.